everyone, MegaRan here from Kotoricon 2014. This is the big little small convention right here in Jersey. Awesome one-day con. So we're going around talking to various people, awesome guests. So today we're talking with one of my favorite nerdcore rappers, MegaRan.
Hey.
Hey, how's it going, bro?
Very good, man. Good to see you.
Right back at you. So this is like what, the second, third, fourth time we've crossed paths?
Yeah, it's been quite a bit.
Definitely. So, what made you decide to become a nerdcore rapper, man?
Well, I've always loved hip hop, and it's just a natural progression. Just kind of, finding yourself as a musician.
Yeah.
And you try different things, and you do the things that you like to do. And as you grow in the music, you just kind of realize that it's just best to kind of be yourself. And that's what happened. I decided to talk and write about the things that I knew and the things that I love, like video games, culture, and things like that. And lo and behold, this subgenre of music called nerdcore was existing as I was, and I didn't know anything about the two. I was calling what I do chip hop.
Yeah.
So chiptune hip hop, and yeah. So now I realized that what I was doing fits very closely with what is called nerdcore. So there I was, it just came down to being myself. That's really what it was.
That's awesome. Now, I know various nerdcore rappers will talk about various topics in the geek and the fandom. What do you like to talk about?
Well, I guess my own life and using the parallel of video games as my own life. So I may mention a video game story or character, but I'll try to work into my own story. So like Little Nemo, the Dream Master, things like that, where there's stories that fit me if I was into that main character role and how I would adjust to that. So that's really what it is. It's about overcoming adversity. I mean, even when I'm talking about Mega Man or Zelda or anything like that, I'm still just using my own examples and thrusting it into the video game story. So it's all about just overcoming obstacles, staying positive most of the time, and just trying to find some humor and just a bright spot in a dark world.
Definitely. So how many albums have you done so far?
Oh my God! How much time you got?
Oh, not enough.
It's quite a bit. Yeah. Honestly, I work on an album. Probably every 3 months I put out at least like an EP or some sort of short album series just to keep music coming out. I have a lot of ideas that I go through in the course of a year. So it's just a matter of making those ideas reality, and it takes a while. But yeah, I'm so backed up on ideas that I'm able to put out music at least every 3 to 4 months. So
that's pretty cool.
It's too many to count. But yeah, the most current is the Blur Bomber album, which came out in December, which is myself and Mr. Wilson playing the roles of Sonic the Hedgehog and Mega Man, and going into that world based on the Archie Comics series and the crossover.
Oh, okay.
So then there's that, and then there's Forever Famicom DLC 3, which is like an EP with myself and K Murdoch. He does all the beats. So there's a lot of video game inspired stuff, as well as like just stories and allegories and anecdotes from my own life, just kind of sprinkled over some video game tracks.
I have to admit, Forever Famicom is one of my personal favorites. Yeah, like I said, a friend of mine, I don't know, we were just talking, he was like, you gotta check out MegaRan 9. I'm like, why? Just listen to it. Went downhill from there. I was like, I'm really enjoying this.
Nice. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that.
So what were you doing before you decided to, like, you know what, I'm going to be a nerdcore rapper and do my thing?
I was a teacher. I taught in Philadelphia. I usually taught language arts, English, reading, writing, to middle school students. And I was always making music on the side just for fun, And I made, I guess, music that you could call conscious hip hop or old school based hip hop.
That's why I really like it.
A very like soulful kind of hip hop thing is what I was doing. And so I was doing that part time and teaching. And I love teaching, I still do. But something happened one day, and it was an album called Black Materia that I did.
Oh, yeah.
Which was based on Final Fantasy VII. And after doing that album, I felt like the response from the press and critics and show promoters and things was just so much that they started asking me to come out and do more and more appearances, and I couldn't keep up both jobs.
Right.
So my principal always told me, you can't serve two masters. At some point, you're gonna have to make a decision. I was taking a lot of days off to go
Right.
do shows, and I didn't want to be unfair to the students. You
Right.
know, I love the students, and middle school, the one thing they need more than anything is stability.
Right.
So they need someone there with them. And you know, you know what happens when a substitute comes in. So it's a free day.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I didn't want to, you know, just set them back with all the things we were learning, and then if I take 2 days off and they're just goofing off, you know, they completely forget it. So I wasn't being fair to them. So I had a long conversation with my students, you know, and I told them, I don't want you to feel like I'm quitting on you. You know, I'm just chasing my passion, and you know, I feel like the wind will blow me back into the classroom at some point, but I got to do this while I can.
Right.
And one of my students told me, he said, "Man, you're not quitting on us, man. You're actually teaching us a pretty cool lesson." And I was like, "What's that?" He's like, "To follow your dreams
There
and
you
to do
go.
what do what you're meant to do while you can still do it before it's too late." So that's what it led to, and I waved the classroom goodbye in 2011, and here I am. I travel and do silly rap songs about video games.
All right. Tell us a little bit about Language Arts.
Language Arts is a 3-album series, as well as a video game, as well as a comic book, all about, loosely based on my life as a teacher, the life of the teacher, rapper, hero. So it's kind of like, you know, like a Superman story where a guy works a regular job, and then at night he's moonlighting and trying to stop criminals and stop bad guys. It's more like Daredevil to me. I think of it more like Daredevil meets like 8 Mile or something, because you know, you got a guy who's got a special gift, but at the same time he works a regular job, and he tries to use, and that job helps him to help people, you know. So and then he goes through all the, you know, the usual trials and tribulations between, like, you know, a relationship, trying to keep a relationship going, trying to keep your job going, and trying to be the best musician you can be.
Right.
So just feeling all that pressure, and that's what the Language Arts albums are about. I'm a big fan of those, so I'm really glad you mentioned that, because it's a great album series, I think, as far as walking you through my life. I mean, of course, it's a little overblown, like in a comic or movie
Well,
sense.
that's always
And that's what it's supposed to be. You know, people aren't really threatening my life, but and I'm not like beating up bad guys, you know, physically. But yeah, we've created a really cool universe with that. Like, there's some great characters. My man Jason Richardson of J1 Studios in Philly did the artwork. He does a comic for us. There's one full issue, and he's putting out a new page like every 2-3 weeks. So if you check out j1studios.com, you can catch up on the whole story.
Nice.
But yeah, it's going to keep on going, man. We're just going to keep that universe rolling. I was talking to some friends about maybe doing another album, another Language Arts volume at some point, maybe later this year, just to keep it going, because it's a great universe.
To kind of keep it fresh. And
yeah, it doesn't really have an ending. If you listen to the 3 albums, it kind of ends with me kind of walking up into the sunset, but it's really the beginning,
right?
You know? So I feel like we'll continue that at some point. So be on the lookout for that. Also, there's a Language Arts video game, which is at languageartsgame.com, and you can play that. It plays a lot like MegaRan mixed with like River City Ransom, because those are like my 2 favorite 8-bit games.
That's what I'm talking about.
Nice. So it plays a lot like that. You level up in things and you get upgrades, but it's a side-scrolling jump and shoot platformer. It's a lot of fun, and so yeah, check that out if you can. And that's really what the Language Arts is. I was trying to create, for lack of a better word, a franchise.
Gotcha.
You know, a franchise of my own. You know, instead of being so closely connected to other people's franchises. You know, I want
something to stand on.
I want to create my own. I want to be like the guy who does the Language Arts thing. That's him. You know, like instead of the guy who does MegaRan or the guy who does Final Fantasy, which is cool. But yeah, I do want. I feel like at the end of the day, as a musician, being able to stand on your own and owning your own catalog of music and creating something and contributing something original to the art form is really my goal. And so that's what Language Arts is, and I will continue to do some stuff with that.
I can't wait, because as I said, you know, I've worked with other people doing various projects. Like my old roommate, he's a teacher, but he's now running his own business.
He got out of there, huh?
No, he's still teaching.
He's still teaching.
He's still working. But I mean, I have a lot of respect for what you do. You put the teaching aside just for now to pursue this dream. it's like your student said. You're making your dream, you're making your goals, you're just proving that you put your mind to it, you can do whatever you want to do.
Absolutely. I mean, and it sounds corny, but it's true. Like,
Yeah.
if you give your all to something, and if you don't give your all to something, you'll beat yourself up forever about it. And that's really what it came down to. If I didn't go out on a limb and try to do this music thing full time, I would have been kicking myself.
Exactly.
Like, what would have happened? And I'd be 50 sitting at home like, I could have been a good rapper. I could have traveled.
Could have been a contender.
I could have.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I think it just came down to just going out and doing it. And so I highly suggest that people make a plan, but quit your job. And if you can't just quit your job, then make a plan towards that, you know, and just mainly just give your passion, you know, more attention. Give it as much attention as you can without it completely, you know, wrecking your life. But I always say that if something is important to you, you gotta make it a big part of your life, because you'll kick yourself later when you realize you didn't.
All right. What are your favorite beats to work with? 8-bit, 16-bit?
I love 8-bit beats, man. I just love the chip sound. I just got a Famicom when I was in Japan, and so on stage, I'll be using it at the show as well. But I use the 8-bit Famicom in order to trigger sounds, and I get sounds off of an SD card where I'm able to pull any Nintendo sounds out that I need.
Nice.
So I feel like, and that's fun for me, because I love the 8-bit sound. It's just nothing like it. It's so distinct to that generation, and I love it. So I'm a sucker for the 8-bit stuff. I really think the new album is kind of opening my ears a bit to it, to other things, because the Blur Bomber album uses a lot of 16-bit and 32-bit stuff from, you know, Sega and from Super Nintendo and from PlayStation.
Gotcha.
So I was stepping into some new stuff, and I really was pleased with the way it came out. I got to shout out the producers on that, a guy named Tax and The Cure and Kill Bill and Lost Perception, guys who did some really awesome stuff with 8-bit, 16-bit, and 32-bit.
That's pretty cool.
So I'm into all of them, but you know, there's a special place in my heart for 8-bit. You know, when I hear those blips and bleeps and bloops, it just takes me back to an innocent time, you know. So I'm really happy. You know, retro's like so in now.
Yeah.
You know, there's new games now that use retro styles, and I'm really, really a big fan of that.
All right. Favorite video games you just like to sit there and just play right through?
Play right through?
Or, you know, you just like to just sit there and just play because it's so awesome.
Mega Man 2, I still play through it maybe once a year. I just played through Super Mario 3, and that's another fun game to play all the way through. Contra, just get on with a buddy, put in a 30-min code, of course, and just go to town. Let's see, another one that I like to kind of run through is, of course, the first Super Mario Brothers. Metroid's another one, Super Metroid. Castlevania Symphony of the Night for PlayStation. And Final Fantasy 7. You know, those are my games.
I don't care what anyone says. 7 will never be overrated. Never.
Never. They need to get on that remake though, because we would buy it up like.
Yes, definitely. Look, I still got people asking me, when are you doing Advent Children, Barrett? When my hair can grow out like that.
Wow.
All right, before we wrap things up, I know we covered various topics and so forth. Is there anything you can tell our fans out there, your fans, you know, words to kind of keep them going, or?
Well, best thing I can say is what I was told when I was teaching, and I went through some really rough times, and I was about to kind of walk out of there and quit, is don't quit. You know, just whatever you do, don't give up. Because there's somebody, and you may not even know who they are, but there's somebody watching you who's inspired by you and who appreciates what you're doing and is maybe even modeling what they want to do after what you're doing. So don't give up, because you never know who's watching and who's depending on you. So just keep that in mind when things get rough, is that there's probably some, you know, little kid or just a younger person or even a person that's your peer who's watching you and inspired by what you're doing. So keep going, even when you think you're not being appreciated.
Hey, thanks a lot, man. I appreciate that. That's it. We'll catch you next time.